Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit nbda.com.
At Jamis, we love being in the bike business. We've been at it for decades, but for us, it's not just about product. It's about partnerships, and we view our retailers as partners, not competitors. Strong margin structures and simple programs make doing business easy, and we offer full margin on our all-access consumer web orders. We invite you to visit the Contact Us section of jamisbikes.com for more information about being a Jamis retailer. And a special thank you to NBDA for helping unite the bike industry. Collaboration drives evolution.
Attention, bicycle retailers. The NBDA Retailer Summit is coming to Las Vegas, March 25th. Join over 150 of the industry's top retailers at Retailer Summit West, an exclusive one-day event featuring powerful insights, hands-on workshops, and unbeatable networking opportunities. Spend the day with top experts in our industry. Don't miss this chance to elevate your business. Learn more and register at nbda.com.
All right, welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio. Thanks for being here. This is our NBDA News Hour monthly podcast with our friends at Human Powered Solutions. I'm joined by Jay Townley, Fred Clements, Mike Fritz, and Steve Bina. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Listeners, you know this feature. This is our monthly News Hour podcast. And the podcast, the news within, is based on the Micromobility Reporter. That is a fantastic resource that Human Powered Solution puts out for the industry at large. It's a monthly feature. You can grab your copy on humanpoweredsolutions.com. When you're there, you can see the long-standing history that this team has brought to the industry, the collective wisdom in this group. It's just always impressive, and I'm excited to get into it today. Shall we, guys? Let's do it. All right. So the recent newsletter is titled Tariffs and Safety Standards in the Flux and the Dangers of False Hope. That's a big title to start the year off with. Tariffs, safety standards, they are something that our retailers are talking about most often. And I think it fits in perfectly with the first article found within the Reporter around UL safety standards being cut from government funding. We saw this bill when it was introduced, the initial bill. I mean, I know that we were overjoyed to see the emphasis on UL and the focus on safety. And then I felt like 24 hours later, that bill was edited to leave several items out, including the e-mobility focus. Maybe, Jay, you could tell us the thoughts from Human Powered Solutions on this one.
Well, we shared the thoughts of Karen Whitaker from League of American Bicyclists that the Tories bill, that Representative Tories introduced the bill, and it had some little bumps and grinds in it, but basically it would have established UL 2849, UL 2271, as Michael talked more to these, but as the standards that CPSC would have to follow in issuing a mandatory regulation covering e-bikes that was to go into effect 6 months from the date of the bill being signed into law. It had every opportunity to move forward, and all of a sudden, until it wasn't, and that was essentially the administration stepped in, cut off that portion. This was part of an appropriations bill, and cut off that portion of it. So it was, then it wasn't. I'm happy to report, by the way, as some of the members of the team here know, that that bill's been reintroduced, and it was at the behest of the Consumers Report, CR, are the ones that were behind this, but they got their data and information from Karen Whitaker and the League of American Bicyclists, which is good because I think they have the right intentions, the right kind of lobbying approach to it. It's still much needed. And it would be, from the standpoint of resurrecting a really good piece of legislation, this would be great. Although our team met and talked about it, and we're concerned that as good as it is, it may not have any legs, may not move too far. But we don't know what reach CR has. Consumer Reports has been around a long time. They've got a lot of members, a lot of consumers. There's a real at this point a real interest on the part of the consuming public to have a very good mandatory federal regulation covering e-bikes and lithium-ion batteries, which we obviously agree with. I think you do as well, Heather, on behalf of the NBDA. So it was a shame that it got cut out in the first place. It's really nice that it's back. We don't know how strongly. I will tell you that there are many in the industry that are in a panic at this point to even think that it might be coming back, because recent conversations have shown us clearly that there is too much old inventory still in the pipelines. There are too many suppliers holding inventory that would not be compliant, remembering that this bill has a 6-month runway. So in other words, the way it was originally written, it was to go into effect. CPSC was mandated by the legislation to come up with a mandatory standard covering e-bikes and lithium-ion batteries 6 months from the date this bill was signed into law. So that's got a lot of people in the industry really upset and concerned. Our general view of this is that we're moving forward with both the testing, the standards, the regulations. The sooner the better. With the understanding that perhaps this inventory that is still clogged up in the system is not going to be resolved in a manner that's going to be consistent with good safety and standing on a firm safety platform, which is to get UL 2849 mandated for e-bicycles absolutely as soon as possible.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay, for that summary. The bill does show us that we are potentially moving forward, and I was glad to see that it was still something that was in consideration. I'm wondering, I mean, Mike, you have been working diligently in the field. I know you were just at the Consumer Electronics Show, and then the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, had an event on batteries recycling. You've been at the CABDA shows, helping us to educate retailers on safety. What are your thoughts on the Torres bill?
Well, basically, I echo what Jay said. And looking at it from the technical perspective, it's clear that substandard product is dangerous. And it's clear that we need some sort of a benchmark, a minimum safety standard to weed out a lot of the very dangerous product that's been coming into the country. I mean, all we need to do is take a look at the situation in New York. Now, substandard product probably is not responsible for 100% of the issue that we've seen in New York. Certainly the people that are using the bikes and the conditions under which they're using them are, very, very rigorous service and whatnot. But the point is the battery packs in this particular instance are not designed or manufactured or tested and certified to safely and reliably provide the type of service that the customers are putting it to. So clearly we need regulations. Now, maybe 2271 and 2849 in general are not perfect, but they're a start. They establish a benchmark against which products must be compared and deemed acceptable or non-acceptable. And clearly, and from the industry perspective, I understand the consternation at the industry-wide level. I mean, this is where I come from. This is my home. And I've spent the last 53 years in this industry, and I appreciate the concerns, that the rest of the industry shows. But life is not perfect. Everything starts out and is implemented and refined over time. We from the industry perspective, the industry should be supporting it because it gives us the opportunity to have one consistent standard equally applied over the country. So we don't have to worry about compliance with a multitude of requirements associated with these products. So yeah, I do feel that Giving CPSC the mandate to regulate, especially lithium-ion batteries, is critically important. Now, you referenced Consumer Electronics Show. Yes, I did attend a Consumer Electronics Show, and I can tell you it is mind-boggling. I mean, to walk into that place, I mean, if you don't walk in there with a plan, you literally walk around with your eyes open and your jaw hitting the floor because it's unbelievable. But I went there per your assignment to assess the entree, if you will, into our industry of new e-bike companies, and there were a bunch. I attended CES 2 years ago, and there weren't a lot of electric bikes on display. This year, there were a ton of them, new entries to our marketplace, and these are pretty wise, and they do appear to be coming primarily out of China. And I'll take off my technical hat for a minute and put on my marketing hat, which is not often used. I believe they see this as becoming a strategic advantage, a marketing advantage, because the majority of the new entrees into the marketplace are bringing in product that have been tested and complied by a nationally recognized testing laboratory to UL 2849 and 2271. So they recognize the fact that this is coming, like it or not, it's coming. So they're going to use it as a tool to bring product into the marketplace that already complies. I can also tell you from my conversations with others on the consumption side of the equation that they're beginning to appreciate the importance of having certified product. I mean, we speak to municipalities and we speak to consumers, we speak to management of apartment buildings on a regular basis, and they're beginning to realize that establishing compliance with a standard, specifically the UL standards, is critically important for their constituency, for everyone's safety. So this is coming, and new entrees into the marketplace appreciate that, and they're going to use it as a strategic advantage. And those that don't jump on the bandwagon now are going to be found wanting. So it is really important. And the last point that you mentioned was attendance at the EPA battery recycling workshop the last couple of days or the first 2 days of this week. It's clear that the government is noticing not only safety aspects of lithium-ion batteries, but also their importance both in terms of recovering the critical minerals that are used to build these battery packs and converting those into a resource for domestic battery manufacturing. So they see a very important commercial aspect, if you will, of pulling in end-of-life batteries and extracting the important minerals and using those to establish a domestic battery manufacturing process. But they also recognize the safety aspects and how the recycling facilities and the people that transport materials to be recycled, how critically important that is from a safety perspective, because these things do carry a lot of energy. And I've said it so many times, when that energy is released in an uncontrolled fashion, it's a catastrophe. So there's a lot happening, both I think from a marketing and consumer standpoint, as well as from a regulatory standpoint. Though the sooner we put on our big boy pants and get on the bandwagon, the better.
Yeah, Mike, there's a lot there, and I appreciate your just thorough analysis of what's happening and all you share with us. I guess let's move over. It's 2025. We're taping at the end of January. I'd like to look at the industry as a whole, 2024 and forward. The article that really caught my eye was from Bike Europe, and it was titled 2024, A Year of False Hope in the Bicycle Industry. I don't like that title, but the article goes into the hope that we had was replaced with many companies reporting financial strains or just making moves like layoffs, things needed to save profits. And the article really questions, what kind of year will 2025 be? I think 2023 was difficult, 2024 challenging. And now what is 2025? Consolidation, maybe optimism, maybe it's our turnaround year. I don't know. Cab to East made me feel very optimistic, but I'm wondering what the team at Human Powered Solutions thinks in terms of 2025 for our industry.
Well, I'll kick it off. That article was very telling.
Yeah.
And to me, in many ways, as you said. Unfortunately, there's a yin and a yang here. The American trade publications aren't as forthright, in my opinion, and I say this all the time in our newsletter, aren't as forthright as the Europeans. This was a very telling article because I thought the European author was being very open, was spelling out the fact that during the course of the year, we as an industry kind of hoped that it would get better. Well, hope is not a strategy, as you know well know from working in the P2 groups. Hope is not a strategy. Fred has said this to me numerous times. Hope is not a strategy. There was a lack of good data, a lack of consolidation, or at least the consolidation of data, the getting together of groups of people to really look at the data that was available to draw conclusions. And I think that's part of what we have to do. The leaders of the industry have to quit, kicking the can down the road and not offering an opinion. Our job is, quite frankly, to guess, to make the best observations we can. The fault I see at this point in the industry is that we have not looked truly at 2025 and looked at the probabilities. Now, with that said, we in the United States are in a very, very chaotic stage relative to the geopolitical nature of things.
Mhm.
So the body politic has changed the nature of the consumer, or the body politic is the changing consumer, if you will. We haven't picked up on all the nuances, although the NBDA did a great job with its survey of the consumers that go to the specialty bike retailers. So I think we've got a good block of consumer information there. What we lack, I think, is the industry getting together. And Heather, you tried numerous times to go to the whole of the industry and say, look, we've got the experts lined up. We've got the international firm that can do the research. Let's do a massive omni consumer study of all cycling consumers, and let's get a real feel for this market. We were told, as you recall, several times the industry couldn't afford it. Now the NBDA couldn't foot it all, but you did your portion, your job, your piece. I think that the industry needs to step up and start to answer some questions.
Mm.
And this article was just the beginning. It just began to show us. Now, what will 2025 be? To answer the end of your read of that article, we don't know. The experts don't know. I know you talked to some of the top experts in the business, and we as a collective group have not sat down and offered the best guess or guesses, because they're going to fall into different categories. We have not had the information. We've not had the support in order to do that. We're dealing with the information available to us, but I still think it's responsibility of Human Powered Solutions, of me, my partners, of the people we work with, to make the best possible guesses we can. And I intend to do that at the upcoming Midwest, the CABDA Midwest Expo. Is we are going to lay out our best guesses with the understanding that this is the best we can tell you today with the information available. And I think we need to move forward to make sure that we as an industry are taking on the responsibility to do the right thing by looking at the available data, improving the available data, putting the money up to make sure that we're getting the answers, and then go on to make additional assumptions, because that's what we're going to do. What do you want right now relative to what is my view of 2025? Difficult. This is going to be a very difficult year for this industry. Since that article came out, if you just look at what's been published in the trade media from Europe and the United States, you see closings, products being withdrawn from the market that have been in the market for decades. We covered in the newsletter. Their companies are being honest, coming forward and saying what their losses are, what their challenges are. So right now, the best I can tell you is it's going to be a difficult year, Heather.
Yeah. Anyone else wanna? Yeah, Fred.
Sure, I'll jump in here. Jay's analysis, as always, is great and right on. I'm not disagreeing with difficult year, but I figure in times of stress, let's turn to the hard science of astrology.
Mm.
And 2025 is the year of the wood snake, from our friends in China and the Far East, and 90+% of our products come from this country, and it's a Chinese New Year, and the wood snake is it. And according to ChineseZodiac.org, this is a time of renewal and transformation. Doesn't mean it's not difficult. Renewal sounds positive, but that's also extremely difficult. But like a snake sheds its skin and emerges with a new appearance, we too are advised to let go of our old habits and fixed ideas. Surely the year of the snake 2025 can be an excellent time to start new projects, explore new opportunities, or even make significant changes in your life. Another Chinese zodiac prediction is that this will be a time to think strategically and plan carefully, which is something you've heard this group say many, many times. So, armed with the snake's calmness and intellect, coupled with the adaptability and flexibility in the face of change given by the wood element, we will be capable of tackling the goals we set for ourselves in 2025 with determination and objectivity. The year of the snake will be about setting realistic goals, devising plans, and working towards our dreams. Now, I'm almost done here. Pardon if I'm going too long here, but on the other hand, according to Chinese astrology, we will also face some challenges. During the year of the snake, people may be negatively influenced by the manipulative tendencies of this Chinese zodiac animal. The number of people trying to take advantage or cheat you will probably increase. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. And it is, you asked 2025, and that's all I've got.
Thank you, Sensei.
I heard that snake is a slippery little sucker who like hit on a hook to like scare the horse at the end of the race and win. So I like looking at astrology. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the rattlesnake, so I'm happy about that.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to see what we're in for. I sense some optimism, but I do think we're gonna be met with some challenges as well, again, as we move through this year. Let's move over. I guess kind of a follow-up article, the article about Brompton, hit with the industry-wide challenges and their profits dropped 99%. That's a big number. Some struggles, right? The boss, I guess, at Brompton Bicycle has predicted that 2025 will be another year of turmoil for the bike industry. Jay, it seems that maybe Brompton, some of this could be due to them being a specialty bicycle retailer, just making folding bikes. A little bit more about Human Powered Solutions thoughts here.
Well, I pointed out in the article that, yes, that is quite correct. In the United States, Brompton is classified as a specialty product because it is a folder, and folding bikes are in the specialty category. They are, however, the largest bicycle manufacturer that still exists in the United Kingdom. So across the pond, they're a big deal in at least the UK market and certainly in the European market as a whole. They're being very forthright. You're right. That's a big number. That's, as Steve will tell you from his background in working in accounting at Schwinn during some of the dark days of the Schwinn Bicycle Company, a 99% profit loss is a big deal. The company is being very, very forthright, again, in the European style of stating that some of their plans to move into a new office, into a new plant where they were going to do the right thing environmentally has all been put on hold. But they are indicative of what we're seeing, and that is companies closing down, brands being withdrawn, companies, large companies, Giant just reported a 7% loss in revenues, and then we got into a couple of articles about hedging, how they did that. And that's a long story about both the Taiwanese, European, and American companies doing business in China and how that works relative to the issues of what gets applied to product today, and how the provinces and the PRC government itself is dealing with subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, the Brompton story, I think, is extremely interesting it's an honest view from a CEO of a company that's had its problems, is deep in trouble at this point, how they're going to get out of it and what the future looks to them. And of course, from his standpoint, he's agreeing that this is the year of the, I like Fred's analogy of the Chinese zodiac. I'd already gone to the group with this is the year of the snake, but it has its in its explanation of what that means. There is some difficulty that can occur. And so it does get to the idea that we're going to have to work our way through 2025 in order to get to 2026. And I think it's a year of dealing with difficulty and dealing with adversity.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we're gonna have to see. I hate to see that news for Brompton. I hate to see the news for anyone. And I guess that brings me to the article that maybe, I guess we could kind of encapsulate this topic. Vosper's article. Are retailers and suppliers going out of business at abnormal rates? Question mark. I mean, this was in Bicycle Retailer Industry News. I know everyone's been talking about this article. I thought it was really, really well written. And I guess there's a journalism rule that states more or less that any headline ending with a question mark can safely be answered with the word no. I don't know. I think the summary from what we get out of the article is that we don't really know, are retailers and suppliers really going out of business at abnormal rates? Gentlemen, what do you guys think? Is this abnormal?
Well, I think I'll kick it off. The way we looked at this was that Rick and also the folks he was working with aren't being told the whole truth. I'm being blunt here. The industry is not being honest with the news media, nor with those of us that are in the analytical side of the business. So, Rick, what I did was draw the analogy between Rick and a guy that some of you may not remember, and that is Donnie Rumsfeld, or Donald Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defense. This is before your time, Heather. I know she came on who. He was Secretary of Defense twice under two different presidents. Well experienced, but he offered up a comment in response to a reporter asking him now what he was going after here and what he was trying to push off, where there were no weapons of mass destruction found when the United States forces invaded Iraq. And so this became a real issue. He was defense secretary. And so he went through this long discussion about things we know, the unknowns, the unknown unknowns. It was basically what you'd call a word salad today. And that is basically what I'm saying I think the industry is doing, is we don't get the facts. I'm back to that original comment I made to your first question. We're not getting the facts. We're not getting the money put into getting to the facts so that we can put them out in front of everybody, including bicycle shop owners. And instead of just drawing really rough guesses and picking up the clues as best we can, we would have a little more solid probability. The laws of probability would apply. We'd able to look at more solid guesses. So that's a long way around of saying that Rick did a superb job. That was a well-written article. The people he worked with gave him the best information they had available.
Yeah.
My comment is that they're not getting good information to work with. And Christopher Georger, certainly from the standpoint of the criterion he uses, we work with Christopher all the time.
Yeah.
I've known him for years, and I know his background. He's a former president of the Bicycle Wholesale Distributors Association, so he knows of what he speaks. Is working with the best information available. But if you look at the criterion, what is a bike dealer, Heather? The definition of that has changed and morphed completely.
Definitely, yeah.
And we need as an industry to get our definitions in place. When I worked as a U.S. representative for the American bike industry on the International Standards Organization development of what is now 4210, the International Bike Standard, the very first thing in international standards work that you do is you get the dictionary straight. You get all the nomenclature agreed to. Now, in the international scene, that takes a year or more, but you're constantly working on making sure that you've got your dictionary laid out, you've got your terminology laid out, you've got your definitions agreed between the countries. We can't even do that as an industry within one country. And that, I believe, is part of our problem.
Yeah.
Heather, I know you're aware there's a Facebook group. It's called Cycle Industry Recovery. I think it's moderated by Rick Vosper. And I, like everybody, I look at Facebook daily. And recently, there have been a number of posts by bike dealers announcing they're leaving the industry. And unfortunately, very sadly, oftentimes the rationale is because I don't want to do it anymore. And it causes me to think of that old adage, for people that buy a boat, what's the absolute best day you've had since you bought your boat? And the answer is the day I sold it. And people enter the industry full of optimism and excitement and love for the product and the activity and everything else. They figure they want to be a bike dealer. They're going to really manifest all of their positive emotions relative to their career. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years later, it's like, I'm out of here. I think the one yesterday was a guy that basically said, I'm giving this up. I'm going to become a fly fishing instructor in Colorado. It was a Colorado dealer. It's kind of like I did this because I thought I would love it. I thought I could make some money, have a nice life cycle style, and enjoy an industry that I love. And at the end of the day, it's didn't work out. And that's sad. And
Yeah.
I think it's symptomatic of all of the issues that we currently have and all of the not always positive evolution that the industry has gone through over the past decades. It's I've been in this industry my whole life. My dad worked for Schwinn when I was born, and there was a time when it was vibrant and exciting, and hopefully it'll be that way again. But in the meantime, we've got some tough days ahead.
Yeah, no, I think Vosper did a great job with the article, and it would be helpful if we had better definitions, more data to actually go on. The article did a great job of getting us all talking. Like, what do we think about this article? And that could be helpful, I guess, as we see retailers exit for whatever reason, timing in life, selling to, an employee, exiting just because of the tough, challenging times we're in. I'm also seeing retailers coming into the industry or retailers opening up additional locations. So you got to balance, I guess, the good with the bad. And what we're going to be left with is just a developing new change of times. And I think retailers and suppliers who are really focused on how to run the best business possible, which I think is one of the best outcomes we could possibly have. So I guess we're just gonna have to see how it all shakes out. I want to move us over to the topic of tariffs. I don't really. Here's another thing that we're making some hypothesis on, but I think it's important to talk about. I know with our political climate, this is one that it really is posing some concern across the industry from our members here in the States or even in Canada. So the article that you referenced in the Micromobility Reporter was, how can leaders build resilience to changing tariffs? I thought it was a great article, and it just, kind of analyzes, are our leaders already looking at, what best policies can be put in place to handle the potential things coming down the pipeline. We recently had one of our ridership panels, and Bob Marjavickas, great friend of the NBDA, he's with Specialized Bicycles. He did give some information on children's bicycles imported from China that I think was little known facts to the industry. So when it comes to tariffs, just wondering what Human Powered Solutions thinks about maybe that our listeners should know right now in late January 2025.
It is, again, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion. Be aware that right now, unless something changes today, there will be a little more clarity on what's going to happen between the United States slapping tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And that'll happen tomorrow. So in the near term, we're going to see what should be the first round, February 1st. General Motors is a good example of this particular situation. And it's not China now, it's General Motors. Fully 1/3, 33.33% of all GM produced cars under all their brands are made in either Canada or Mexico. So it gives you an idea of the magnitude.
Yeah.
GM is looking at plans. Now they got to decide once they see tomorrow what occurs, if it occurs, because the threat has been 25% ad valorem. 25% on the FOB value. And it may not be that, it may not happen at all. It may be something totally different. But if it does, what GM from their standpoint, as laid out as of yesterday, is their planning is one, bring in more of their cars from foreign plants other than Mexico or Canada. That may not be exactly what the intention is. And that's part of the point here. Tariffs may not yield exactly what the intention is. Another piece of their plan is produce more in the U.S. Yes, that's part of what tariffs are promised. But you got to retool for that. You got to pull down the production in the plants that the punitive tariffs are being applied to. You got to build up the production or build out the production for the plants that you're going to shift the production to. They've done some planning, but they're not going to go ahead and invest the dollars till they see exactly what the administration does. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a good example rather than look at the Chinese situation per se. We'll see what develops. Tariffs are an important issue to the American bicycle industry because I think back when we started to look at tariffs and the U.S. industry, the American bicycle industry got hit with the Section 301 tariffs. What we were done was a great disservice. We were totally misunderstood. And what's misunderstood here is this general philosophy, oh, fine, just invest in the U.S. Now, there have been 3 of us that work for a manufacturer, 3 of us that have looked at foreign plants. Steve and I were involved in acquiring a plant in Hungary. Mike and Steve and I all worked in Asia. We were all part of what occurred when Schwinn invested in a plant in mainland China. We worked with Giant. So we know and we understand what the infrastructure is all about and why it's so difficult to do this in the U.S. And you mentioned Bob Markovicius. He tends to agree. He understands. He knows what exactly is going on, as do people that are already in the business doing assembly in the United States, which is small.
No.
So one of the facts that Bob disclosed in that panel that you had him part of was 87% of all the bicycles imported in the last year he had data, or last month he had data for, which was October, was 87%. The units came from China. Now, the dollar value of those units is only about 33% of the total FOB dollars of product coming into this bike product coming into this country. So you got to be aware of the units and make sure that you juxtapose that on the dollars, not look at one or the other. But we are basically at this point an import dependent industry and have been for 30 years. That's part of what wasn't laid out clearly. We also have, as Michael will tell you, he's an engineer. Michael, when he got into the Schwinn Bicycle Company, I believe you were designing tools and machinery. There's no engineers in our industry that do that anymore. We can design bikes, but we've ceded all that information, all that knowledge over 30 years to the Chinese and the Taiwanese and to the Europeans to some extent, but mostly the Chinese and the Taiwanese. So this is a difficult situation that we as an industry find ourselves in, where there is no solution for us in high tariffs. There are no jobs to protect. There's no industry to protect. There's no way those dollars are going to translate into investment in manufacturing in this country. And you might recall one of the things I did in this month's Reporter in the article that you're talking about is I challenged Giant as a major entity to invest in the United States. Mm-hmm. Let's get the investment we need in manufacturing bicycles, and particularly the component side of the business. Let's get it back in this country. But the industry is going to have to make a decision, a conscious decision to invest in this country if we're going to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, you bring up a lot of good points, and there is a lot of challenges specifically to our industry that we are going to have to mitigate as the tariffs move forward. We see what happens. So it is something, we don't want to have to outprice our bikes, and we want to grow ridership. So it's very concerning, very alarming. Appreciate your overview, and I guess we're just going to keep watching this and do our best to make sure everyone is aware of what's happening as it unfolds.
Ready to upgrade your ride? Meet the Okai Flex Move EVF 10. the foldable electric bike that combines portability and style. With its powerful motor, smooth 20-inch fat tires, and foldable design, the EBF10 takes you further faster. Whether you're commuting through the city or hitting the trails, it's compact enough to fit in your trunk and powerful enough for any adventure. Lighten the load and enhance your life with the Okai Flex Move EBF10. Now available in Onyx Black and Cactus Green. Find yours today at okai.co.
Let's go over to the article on why buying a bike helmet online could be dangerous. This is from Consumer Reports. We talked about them briefly earlier in the episode here. There's a lot of third-party sellers online, and in a recent spot check, what happened is Consumer Reports product safety experts, they were able to, unfortunately, easily find several helmets available online for sale that did not come with the required labels, and this didn't meet CPSC standards. So these bikes that did not meet federal safety standards bought online from eBay, Facebook, Shein, Temu, Walmart. I mean, I hate to say places by name, but I mean, this is a real big thing. We know that bike helmets are a carefully regulated product with these mandatory standards set forth by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. We want to keep our riders safe. I know that both the NBDA and Human Powered Solutions heard from Karen Whitaker from the League of American Bicyclists, advising us to alert retailers. So what should our listeners know about these unregulated helmets that are being sold? We want to advise our customers when they're coming in the door, correct?
We do, and I think Mike's correct, is we need to make sure that we're letting our constituency, starting with bicycle dealers, and dealers in turn have to inform consumers about what's certified, what's tested, certified, what is product that CPSC in this case has at this point is looked at and said is meeting the mandate, or the testing agencies. So there is a helmet standard, and maybe again from the standpoint of what do we do to alert? Consumer Reports and others could help by making sure that there's a place consumers can go or dealers can go. But it goes back to what Mike was talking about earlier, and that is being able to stem the flow of uncertified, untested, unregulated product into the country. And here's a case, as you point out, Heather, where we've got a mandatory federal standard. It's not being adhered to. So I'm back to the issue of, I think the whole of the industry needs to stand on a solid safety platform and make sure that we're very articulate about and very forceful about making sure that it's clear that we are advocating for the meeting of standards, making sure that products are tested to and adhere to the standard, and that retailers in general, whether they're D2C or not, are making sure that consumers are aware of what those standards are and what they have to do to make sure that they're providing consumers with a certified safe product.
Mm. Yeah. Anything else, Mike? Did you want to chime in there too, or?
Yeah, just from, again, putting the engineer's hat on again, just from a technical perspective, helmets are a mature product. They're well understood, and the benefits of utilizing a properly constructed helmet are very well understood. I mean, football, motorcycles, Fred rides a motorcycle, bicycle helmets, the body of knowledge associated with how a helmet can protect your brain is extensive. And it's all focused on that objective: protect the rider's brain. And to think that people are buying uncertified helmets, running the risk of severe head trauma is just a travesty. And the fact that we have a federal standard that people are not adhering to, I think, is despicable. So and again, I agree with Jay. There needs to be a database. There needs to be a reference. We've had a lot of conversations, and this isn't the proper venue to go into detail relative to an up and coming trend in Europe. It's called the digital product platform, or digital product passport, and basically it's a barcode or a QR code or a website that would be printed on every product that allows the buyer of that product to go to a website and see all of the various attributes of this product that they're buying, and something like that needs to be implemented so that consumers can make an informed decision to protect their health and the health of their loved ones moving forward. So, that may be the type of database that we need. Maybe just a simple list, like CPSC publishes a list, NBDA publishes a list of certified bicycles. We need a similar sort of thing for helmets, such that consumers have a reference that they can go to make sure they're getting good product.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys, come on, industry. Let's keep our riders safe here. We got to get on the right page.
Yeah, they're not just riders; they're customers. They're willing to give us money.
Come on. E-bike safety for retailers. Mike, I know you're always working on a lot. Is there any topics that you think our listeners should know about? I know you touched briefly on the
it's basically the same old. Again, buy certified product. And as I reported earlier, I think the opportunity for dealers to buy certified product is growing, because a lot of the smaller entrees into the marketplace that will be big sooner or later are jumping on the bandwagon, and they're bringing in product that has been tested by nationally recognized testing laboratories to applicable standards. So that's really the bottom line. We've got a bunch of guidelines, specific do's and don'ts relative to lithium-ion batteries, which is what I've focused on for the past several years. But prior to that, your single best defense for a dealer is to buy and sell certified product, and for a consumer is to buy certified product, and then read the owner's manual or listen to the advice of the dealer, adhere to it, and you're going to have a good, safe experience. But as I say, there's lots of minutia behind that statement, and we're happy to talk about that minutia to anybody that wants to hear it. I'm going to do it again at Midwest and Cab to West. But the point is certified product, certified by an appropriate agency, is the single best defense we've got against tragedy.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Let's bring Steve into the conversation here. Steve, you had an article separate to the Micromobility Reporter. So it's an additional article that was on records retention and all about the data we're collecting and what to do with this data and records. I hate to ask you to summarize it in, a brief moment here on the podcast, but could you, what do our listeners, give them enough so they have to go visit the Human Powered Solutions website and read the whole article?
Well, they should do that regardless, Heather.
Yeah.
But having said that, it was kind of 180 degrees of some of the articles that I've written up to this point, defining the data. How much do you have? How do you keep it secure? How do you keep other people out of it? And now I've written an article that says, hey, you probably need to think about when you should get rid of some of that data. And in fact, that's really an issue. And I've seen that in companies large and small. There are certain legal requirements for certain kinds of data that you need to retain. And for your dealers, they should be talking to their accountants, to their legal counsel to determine those parameters. But the key to it is, once you legally no longer need to retain a specific piece of data, delete it. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, it will reduce the amount of space that you need to store data, which is a physical requirement, which is dollars and cents out of your budget. And number two, if you don't do that and you get audited or you get sued or people come after you for certain information and it looks like, well, you deleted some data here, but you didn't delete some data there, what are you hiding? Why did you delete this one kind of data and not the other? And the key to this is consistency, right? So that you do it on a repetitive and continuing basis. That way there's no question. And if you do it within the legal parameters of what's required, then nobody can come back to you and say that you were hiding something. It protects your business.
I like that. I like that, Steve. Steve, you're always writing these great articles that really get your brain thinking. So I definitely want to suggest our listeners head over and read the full article, because there's a lot there and we should know this information. Steve, it was a pleasure to have you at the P2 workshop that we held at Cab to East. We had 27 retailers and suppliers in the room. It was a full day workshop focused on business operations, financials. Is there anything that stood out to you, Steve, from being part of that conversation?
Well, first of all, Heather, thank you for the invitation. I truly enjoyed being there and sharing that day with those retailers. The tough part is answering your question with a specific issue. But the one that I will come down to is the conversation that you had with some of your dealers about key performance indicators, KPIs. To me, it is crucial that you know where your business stands on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. Now, I understand that that can take time, but as it was pointed out in the meeting, within your business operation, if you have different systems that you're using, the probability is that those systems are creating reports or can create reports for you that will give you an insight into the business. And I really hope that your dealers, and your very successful ones, I'm sure, don't measure their business once a year, that they are in fact measuring it weekly, monthly, daily, perhaps, to see what's going on. Now, we come back to budgets, cash flow analysis, inventory turnover. Those types of things are critical and key KPIs to any business. And I'll be working up some additional articles covering those issues with NBDA guidance.
Awesome. Excellent. Steve, it was great to have you in the room. We did those breakout sessions, and having your feedback, I think the attendees gained a lot from your insight, and I appreciate you being there. And I know that I think Jay will be joining us at CABDA Midwest workshop, and it'll be great to have Jay in the room. I want to get Fred into the conversation. Fred, I know you have the pulse on the industry, looking at brands, suppliers, retailers. I don't know. And just, I want to hear from you. You didn't jump in when we were talking about Vosper's article there, but thinking about 2025, what's going on from a retailer's point of view, where should they be maybe positioning themselves? What should they be thinking about? Kind of a broad question, but I want to get your ideas in here too.
All right. Well, just a little bit. So, one theme I hear from retailers almost universally for the last couple of years, the post-COVID years, are that floor traffic is down. We're just not getting people even shopping, and so it occurred to me that we as an industry, in my opinion, do a poor job of promoting cycling in general. The group, People for Bikes now, it used to be Bikes Belong, and before that, other things. They used to have, a goal of more people on bikes more often. They don't really do that anymore because they're focused on very important things, infrastructure improvements and regulatory stuff and all. And they're not really promoting cycling. In my own little fantasy world, an organization, a national organization could create a press office, hire 2 people, and all they do is reach out to media, try to get placements, try to come up with content, consistently push, try to develop some areas where you can measure results and promote cycling directly without tying it to infrastructure or any of the rest. But no one's doing that. So if we need, and we agree that we need to promote cycling, where's it going to happen? My best answer is the dealer. It has to be the dealer because no one else is going to do it for you. And so you are in a great position locally. And this, it's not a new thing I'm saying here or a new thing, but the successful retailers that I know, they focus on community engagement and involvement because that's promoting cycling, rides, classes, whatever it may be. Build your market. Don't just wait for growth to happen or look to someone else. If you don't do it, no one's going to, and you're going to be left alone. And that's too bad. So any kind of community engagement, I think, would be something to seriously look at because that's where you can add something very unique, something local, build your brand, and you're right in a great spot being local to accept their money when they buy something.
Yeah, I love the focus on community engagement, the rides, the classes, the schools, just the joy. And in our consumer research that we just published, which listeners, this research is free to NBDA members. So please join, please look at this research. Over 1,000 responses gave us this data, and people riders, customers are telling us that they want to support the specialty bicycle retailer because of connection to community, the services and the knowledge that you offer, and that they interact with the specialty retailer via Facebook and other social platforms, and they love to see your emails. So get connected with the community and let your customers know. Fred, I completely agree with what you're saying. Fred, you're in California. I hate to ask this, but do you know anyone who was impacted by the fires? It's just such tragedy as we're seeing the reports.
It's still pretty chaotic. I think Heather and maybe some others know Chris Kelly, Topanga Creek Outpost, been a longtime retailer. The best I haven't had a chance to reach out to him, but the best I could tell, he was not in the actual fire area, although I'm sure if he wasn't, he inhaled a lot of smoke. And, so what happens to any business when your consumer base is devastated and they have priorities of rebuilding their lives, not buying bike stuff? The optimistic side would be where they're going to need something to do with their time to relieve the stress, and maybe bicycles are good there. But I don't know. I hope Chris is fine. I hope everyone recovers well, but it's still too soon to really know, in my mind, what the regional and local impact will be.
Yeah, I mean, if I reflect back just what, our retailers, our community has been, up against this past year. I look at our Florida retailers with the horrific weather events. Then I look at North Carolina, and surrounding communities, even as far as in the Georgia retailers that were impacted by that horrific amount of rain, and now the fires, and we're just like in this rebuilding stage, and the challenges with insurance also something coming down the pipeline. So not happy to see that out there, and my thoughts to everyone who's been impacted with that, and will continue to be for some time. The NBDA, if you're listening, we are offering support if you've been impacted by any of these weather events. Please reach out. Whatever we can do to support your business in your community, we're here to help. So please do that. One more question I want to get into, and it's news from Arkansas, our great friend Arkansas. Bentonville, a place that we're hosting our retailer summit in May. They are reporting that there is a cycling accelerator open to global bicycle industry. This is out of Bike Europe. So companies based in North America, Europe, or Asia, dedicated to promoting cycling. There's an opportunity for 10 tech startups to come to Arkansas for this facilitator. What we're looking to do is just foster long-term cycling industry growth right here. I'm wondering what the team of Human Powered Solutions thinks about this. I know you guys love the area, so I'm wondering.
Well, it's a start.
All right.
It's an indication of what a community, starting with a community college that's got funding available from the Walton Foundation, which is key here, is able to do. I think it's an excellent opportunity, Heather, for the Retailer Summit in May. If you haven't reached out to these folks, the accelerator folks that are in that area, I would suggest we do it, and maybe even offer them a chance to speak to the group, because my concern is that the amount of money that was in the article, and by the way, I think it's also indicative that of what we're going through in this industry, that article came from a European publication about what's going on in Arkansas. But that was below $200,000. I think it was $125,000 is the initial seed for the 10 startups. That's interesting, but it's nowhere near the kind of money that's going to be required if we're really going to make a start of 10 really meaningful startups, particularly if there's supply base for assembly and manufacturing in the United States. But as I said, it's a start. It puts an infrastructure in place. It puts money in place. It puts the Walton Foundation in the mix, because that is large money if you've really got an opportunity. They are the largest, their family, through the Walmart stores, is the largest retailer of bicycles in the United States. They sell millions of bicycles. So it's in their best interest to see what they can do to help promote the industry, get domestic manufacturing started here for parts, accessories, anything. that is going to make us more competitive in our marketplace, in the United States marketplace. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for the NBDA to reach out in May and bring these folks in and have a conversation with them in some way, shape, or form.
I love that, Jay. Yeah, I just took a note there while you were saying that. I think it would be great to have them at the event. And we do have, the event is really just coming together quite well. And we look forward to that. We do have the one coming up too in March in Las Vegas. We have over 100 people in the room, major suppliers, major retailers, over I don't know, 75 retailers out of that 100. So really great representation all across the US into Canada as well. So still space if you're listening and you'd like to join us in Las Vegas. A fantastic opportunity to learn from several retailers and then workshop through different strategies to make your business more profitable in 2025. So really excited about that. All right, already an hour goes by like that. We hardly even touched all the articles in the Micromobility Reporter. So again, head over to humanpoweredsolutions.com. You'll want to read the whole entire reporter. They do a great job of summarizing all the headlines in the industry and how it does impact your business. Fred, favorite part, let's start with you. Specific advice for our listeners for February 2025 for our retailers.
Well, I came across a business consultant who said an obvious thing, but for some reason it stuck with me. He said, as an owner or a general manager, anyone with bottom line responsibility for a business, your job is two things: keep expenses down and revenues up. That's it. And it's I don't know why it struck me, it just did, but it's obvious when you look at it that anything you do in planning really should address either of those two things or both of them. And obviously expense control, some people have said expense control is the key to survival in the bike industry, and maybe, and yet growing revenue sometimes costs, your expenses are going to go up. I think the key thing for retailers, as I alluded to earlier, is to try to find a way to get sales up without incurring a lot of additional expense. It's all part of the planning process. But what are you going to do to grow revenue? And what are you going to do to eliminate unnecessary expenses? And so that's all very sort of financial statement focused. And, Heather, earlier you mentioned Bob Margevikis, and he helps the NBDA with webinar content sometimes. And he has on more than one occasion cautioned retailers against a mercenary mindset. And I like that because it shows that there's more to success than just expenses down, revenue up. You're not in the dollar business. You are also in the dollar business, but you're in the bicycle business. And I think if you're finding your enthusiasm lagging and it's not unexpected or irrational that you would, finding a way to keep the joy and enthusiasm so that you're not just mercenary trying to squeeze every dime out of everybody's at last, a pocket that they have in their jacket, but find a way to be fueled by the love of the bicycle, and then the rest will follow. Still under this lens of prudent financial management and expenses down and revenues up. But I sort of like that. I think it's that consultant maybe was a little wrong because it's not just that. There's a whole extra dimension that we need to fuel and keep alive in order to succeed.
I really like that, Fred. I just came from a P2 meeting with a group of retailers in Denver, Colorado, and we're always looking at the KPIs. We're always looking at the financials. They are important, but we were really dialed into talking about the customer journey and the experience in the store and how we can create a memorable experience. When we do that, where we really think about like the way Ritz-Carlton, takes care of their customers with these unexpected touches. If we can be unexpected and memorable, that creates more customer loyalty, more customers, and just helps people in their journey. So I love the reminder there that you've given to our listeners. I'm fired up now, Fred, so you did it to me. Let's move to Jay. Jay, for our suppliers in February 2025, where might they want?
Well, at this point, I would, I've talked about different things in these podcasts, but I think for suppliers, they have to look at two things very seriously. Invest in the industry, and I realize this is difficult because they wanted to invest in themselves and their businesses. But we have to make a determination if we are going to have an American industry or not. Because right now we're at the mercy of the Europeans and the Asians, which is not all bad, but we have literally no manufacturing presence in this country. We're import dependent. If we're going to do that, let's invest in it. Let's go and invest in the research. Let's make sure we're doing the consumer research we need to do to be the best sellers we can be of bicycles in our market. And so that and transparency. That is being as honest as they can be with the people downstream. That includes the consumer, but obviously I'm aiming at the dealer here. And embrace specialty retail. There's a lot of brands that don't understand the importance of dealers, particularly what they bring on the service side of a business. And so that means also in being transparent, also being open to dealers and working with dealers, is giving dealers an honest profit to be made on the sale of your product through the specialty channel. And so what do you get back for that is honest representation and really good representation of your products in the marketplace.
I like that, Jay. Communication should be at the core and honesty should be right there with it. Mike, what about when it comes to e-bike safety? Where should our focus be?
Yeah, you know what, Heather, I'm gonna take a little detour on that one this time and not reiterate what I reiterate every time we have a podcast. And I, in fact, I've already done it in my comments earlier today. What I would like to raise, as you know, I spent 2 days this week immersed in the bureaucracy of our government. I attended a workshop sponsored by the EPA. There were a number of different agencies in attendance, and including the Department of Energy. There were a ton of lobbyists in the room. A lot, the focus was what can we as a country do to do a better job of recycling batteries. And it wasn't just e-bike lithium-ion batteries. The category was mid-format batteries, which are batteries bigger than a laptop and cell phone, but smaller than an e-car. And it was very interesting. And I found myself hearing an acronym over and over and over again. It was EPR. And I'm saying to myself, what does EPR mean? So I Googled it while I'm sitting there. I had my computer open in front of me. It stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. And essentially it's a movement, if you will, for lack of a better term, in Washington and in the halls of government that will shift a lot of the responsibility for environment and sustainability to producers. And by producers, they mean not only manufacturers, but distributors and brands and whatnot. And I think we as an industry need to be paying attention to this. I don't know what it ever will become in terms of regulations and regulatory requirements and regulatory responsibilities, especially in light of what's transpiring in the government right now with respect to the new administration. But the point is it's specifically a focus of our industry. The focus was, not surprisingly, recycling. And I think the implication for our industry is that our brands are going to have to start taking a much more proactive, much more involved role in facilitating recycling of batteries in our products. So I guess all I'm saying is I'm introducing the concept to your listeners and our constituency and promising that I will investigate this further and try to develop and deliver more insightful conversations relative to what this is and what it might mean for us in the future.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. I like having you out there, and I know it's a lot of time for you to travel to those events and make sure you're up to date on what's happening, but having you really advocating for retailers, for the industry, it means a lot. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, Heather, for your support.
Yeah, it's a big job, Mike. I know you're out there. You travel a lot, so I do thank you. Steve, what about bring us home when it comes to financials, focus for retailers and maybe for the industry at large? Hearing the reports of everyone kind of having a tough time right now.
Yeah, and I want to build on something that Fred was talking about a little bit ago. Well, you got the message on data. It's not immortal. If you take that as the simple statement, then we're good to go. but not to discount being in the bicycle business as something that you do and that you love. Figure out your KPIs, understand those, measure them, watch them. And Fred, you brought up a good one about chasing dollars. One of the KPIs that I've seen really cause a lot of problems for businesses, big and small, is the percentage of their expenses versus their revenue. If you've got a range, and typically that's somewhere between 20 and 24%. If your expenses run at 20 to 24% of your revenue, you're probably running a good business. Anything more than that, you're probably heading for a cliff.
I like that. Thanks, Steve. Steve, you're such a wealth of knowledge. It was great to have you in that workshop. Listeners, that is it. Thank you again for listening to the podcast episode. This news hour is something we've been doing for multiple years now, and it really means a lot for us to come together and share this information with you. Head over to the Human Powered Solutions website. Make sure you sign up for a copy of their newsletter and read the different research and reports that Steve has put together as well. We'll do one of these again next month that'll be focused on the February episode. If you're a friend of the podcast, please share on your socials or go ahead and leave us a review. We love to hear your feedback so we can, continue to make sure we're producing great content for you that drives your business forward. Thanks for all you do. And with that, let's go. Bye, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.